Morning, Jen.
Morning, Janice. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm happy it's Friday.
Yeah, this was a very, very long week.
But we
I'll
made
be-
it almost.
Yeah, with a little dusting of snow, which makes me happy. Sorry, but it does.
It was nice to wake up to. I wasn't expecting it.
I'm gonna go off cam for a bit until everything gets rolling, but just wanted to say hi.
Sounds good. See you in a bit.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Doug. How's it going?
Oh, not too bad. I meant to get up even earlier and get to Salem by an 8 o'clock hearing, but didn't make it, so I'll have to go later.
That's an early wake up to get down there that time.
Yeah. I hear there's snow in Bend.
Yeah, we got a light dusting. 2 days in a row this has
I
happened.
love that.
Yeah, it's been great.
That's great. The more the merrier.
Hey, Jen, quick question. We're tracking House Bill 4002 because that's what AOCMHP is supporting, but there are a couple of other Measure 110 bills that are being proposed by others, that are worth discussing. I just didn't prioritize them, but I don't want that to, like, the commissioners obviously may want to prioritize them. So just kind of calling that out.
Okay, so I think you'll be the third up. The first two should go pretty quickly because it's the commissioner's bills.
Okay.
And 4002 is the first one on there, so you can just bring that up. And then Doug, if you have any background on that too.
Yeah, the other bills are on the list. 1555, 1588, and 4032 are the three Republican bills, all of which were heard along with 4002 on Wednesday.
Is it 4032 or 4036?
Yeah, probably 4036.
I'm quoting the paper, so that might not be accurate. Yeah. Is it 4036? Okay.
Yeah.
On that request for the Innovation Hub, Katie Brooks is actually going to join under other items, and Commissioner Adair is comfortable with that. So she has the link, so she'll just pop in at the end of today's meeting and we'll promote her up to talk about that request since the deadline is on the 12th.
Great. And it cut out a bit. You're talking about the Ben Chamber letters for, okay, great. Perfect.
Actually, OSU, but Katie's convening the outlet.
Great.
And quick question, Doug, is 1555 the one NOPE is supporting? And that's a Senate bill?
Correct. Yeah, it's okay. It's the version of the House bill essentially, which is the combination of those three bills make up the bulk of the two ballot measures being supported by Kevin Mannix in his coalition.
Okay.
So basically, Class A misdemeanor, a different version of diversion or deflection that starts with the opportunity to impose a civil penalty and moves on from there.
Okay.
And then also just for both of your notifications, that is under the DA reviewed those bills. And so they're up after health services. So they can talk about that too. So it is on the bill tracker.
Thank you.
Yep.
Little pre-work, you're catching us in. Sorry, folks.
It's okay. It all kind of mushes together in a short session.
So I've got a dog problem here because they're barking crazy, but is Commissioner Adair coming to run this meeting or am I running?
She's coming.
Yeah, okay. I was just making sure. Okay.
Yeah, I think she was trying to fire up her computer when I talked to her a couple of minutes ago.
Fire is the perfect word. Thank you, Doug. Good morning, everyone. I believe we have legislators on, so let's get right to it. I'm sure we need to hear from them. Who do we have available? I know, Doug, you said that Senator Lithicum wasn't coming. Let's see, do we have?
I don't
Doesn't
think we have
look like
anyone
we have
yet.
any on yet, so we could reverse the order until they come on.
Yes, I got to be incredibly aware when they do get on because their time, I know they're really swamped. Okay, well, Doug, how about
Yeah,
your update?
Representative Levy just joined us.
Oh, okay, Emerson. Emerson, you've got the floor.
Good morning, Representative. Yeah.
Good morning. Sorry, my computer was being a little wonky.
Oh, join the club. Yes, Representative Levy, can you let us know what's going on? I hear the UGB bill, the housing bill, they don't like that, the part that I desperately need.
I think that there are, right now, it's on the Senate side, and there's a lot of ongoing discussions about that. I think the part that we're really trying to emphasize is the reason that that number is higher than maybe people would like is because that number encompasses acreage for complete communities, which is important to not have urban sprawl, and just really trying to convey that message that we need that larger acreage to create what we would like. Certainly it's a tension point right now. I think when it comes over to the House side, we'll have more flexibility and support. I believe the acreage will be in there. It just, what does that final number look like? It's certainly a tension point in the building right now, but I think once it gets over from the Senate side, there's just going to be more flexibility. But right now, we've kind of been instructed, like, don't mess with the Senate side too much, let it come over to the House. And so that's where I'm going to do. Let it come over here.
Okay.
But there is, the most important part of that bill to unlock housing truly for Deschutes County is the infrastructure money. So, Doug, do you agree with that?
Yeah, Representative, that's exactly what I've heard. The hearing was quite contentious. Lots of people opposing any expansion of UGBs and talking about the need to use land inside UGBs, which is also part of the proposal. So it's kind of a double-edged sword that they're pursuing at this point. But I think at the end of the day, something along those lines will be included in the bill. The bill, I think, will be Senate Bill 1537. There are 3 different housing bills, but my guess is that'll be the underlying housing bill that'll come over to the House and then go to Ways and Means.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I would just say hold tight and let it get to the House, and we might be able to do some more over there. But UGB will be part of it. It's just we've got to get through some negotiations and some tough conversations.
Okay. Because the one property is 1,425 feet from the UGB right now. I think it's a quarter of a mile. It's nothing. Anyway, just keep remembering that.
Comment on that. This is Commissioner DeBonne. We always need to remember that we're in gridlock right now with the homeless situation. You know, the Ninth Circuit Court says we can't ask people to leave. State land use says we can't set up campgrounds on EFU land. Urban growth boundaries are the most sacred thing in the state of Oregon. We've got public safety responding to vehicles burning, tents burning out in the woods. We can't ask people to move for their own good or for the good of the community. So we're in gridlock. I just want to point out, and this is kind of my theme recently, everything can't be a #1 priority. We've got to figure out which is coming first, which is going second. We're having people die from, the dog mauling north of Bend. We've got a fentanyl wave dropping on top of vulnerable people. So, I mean, this isn't, ooh, this is Oregon. We need to really fight for that UGB because we need to study the problem. This is critical right now. So I'm just giving you some energy on the topic. What are we going to do about this? And if we put in a temporary RV camp or a housing thing, it's going to happen quickly. Let's plan for a better solution in the future, not think that we're just going to have, low income people living in substandard conditions because that's the best we could do. So we've got to aim for a brighter future.
Oh yeah, Commissioner, I completely agree with you. And despite being a little bit tired this morning, I completely share your urgency, and I assure you that urgency is in the building to act and to do things. We are just having to delicately deal with some interest groups, and we will get to the other side. But
well, and I would support you boldly dealing with those groups. But yeah, I'm just saying, this is Oregon.
Right. I would say that urgency is felt 100%. And we will come out with some actions. Right now, we're just in difficult conversations, but we will get through them.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Representative, can you talk a little bit about the revenue forecast this week, which was up, I think, a little more than some people expected, and how that might impact infrastructure funding discussions? As you know, the county, one of our main priorities is that 21st Street improvements out east of Redmond, which helps not only Core 3, but also the other 2 or 3 homeless projects out there that we've got going on. So I'm wondering, just kind of an overall perspective, what's the sense in the building as far as the revenue forecast, and does that open up the possibility for more investments at the local level?
Yeah, so absolutely. So Doug, the revenue forecast was up more than expected. And hopefully one day we'll get a better way of forecasting revenue so that we can be more prepared in the session and to build out our budget. But that's a much bigger conversation for another time. So we are really fighting for infrastructure dollars. And though that the project in Redmond is going to be #1 on my list for the 21st Street to unlock that. And we have David Gomberg's bill, which also has sewage and water projects, which I've submitted projects for. So we are hopeful, and I haven't been told that that bill isn't moving forward, Gomberg's bill with the infrastructure and sewage dollars. What I haven't gotten confirmation on is if Southeast Bend sewage would be on that list. But right now the Redmond project is on Gomberg's bill.
Representative, on this topic, I always figure that it's so valuable to invest in the smaller towns, because a $1 or $5 million investment is going to, pop out 100 or a couple hundred homes in a small town, instead of the 10 and 30 million or $50 million investment in a growing city that needs to, extend out. So I'm pointing out 100,000 people in Bend trying to add infrastructure dollars. The investment may be more valuable to help load balance the state for some smaller sewer and water system. So just a point of view.
No, absolutely. And so there's an algorithm for Gomberg's bill, and that is why Redmond is the only project that's still in our area that's on there. But the hope is with the more dollars that we could add more projects. So
Great. Thank you.
Rising tides lift all boats kind of thing.
Emerson, how much money is needed for Southeast Bend?
That's a great question. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I have it written down somewhere.
Okay, because we also would actually appreciate money for South County. We just had a meeting on Wednesday with DEQ. They're doing well testing. The nitrates are continuing to creep, and the systems in Oregon that are being put in, even in today's world, are only 70% effective. So every 4 houses that are built in the area are still contributing 100% to the nitrate load. So we can talk about that later, but
yeah, if there's a project down there, just send me an email. Now is the moment
okay.
to try and sneak it into the bill. So I'd be happy to try and do that. It's just, again, no promises. It's anything can happen in the building.
Well, it was good news that the revenue forecast was actually higher.
Absolutely.
So yes.
Also, there isn't a mature project because these were lands platted before land use. They're not in a city. Goal 11 means you can't put in a sewer system unless you ask pretty please and go through an appeal process. We have advocacy groups that don't allow it to proceed because of the state priorities. And we have a public health crisis in the future. We have good water now, and they say within a 50-year period, at some point it could get bad. So we don't have a project because of land use.
But we do have 7,000 old sewer systems that could be upgraded, 7,000, and at 40,000 apiece, that's 280 million.
There
So
we go. That's
we
a simple ask, yeah.
we
Yeah,
can
that's a
just-
real simple ask.
we can
What-
suck all that money up so fast, but I mean, that's how big it is. I mean, and it's contributing. It's not a, this is Deschutes County. We have to keep our water clean.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you can send me an email outlining the project, and what I'll do is I'll send it to Harmony. We have an official water caucus now. In my office and several offices, we all contribute to have one person that's dedicated to working on water, and her name is Harmony.
She
And
is best from Representative Owens. Yes.
she's the best. So let's get this on her radar.
Okay.
She's wonderful.
That's great to know. Any other comments you wanted to add, Emerson?
Let's see. So I'm sure you're all following Measure 110. It is lots of hearing, or very long hearing this week. I think really what the question is what is, it really will come down to a lot of the way that the bill is written, and certainly Representative Kropp is the better person to communicate with on this, but the counties will play, it appears, a role in this. And so I guess I would probably encourage a one-on-one with Representative Kropp to figure out what that county role and how they're rolling that all out. That's certainly his area of expertise, but I would say that is probably what most people talk about. I have probably a more, probably more no nonsense view than some people in my party, and I'm pretty open about that. That's not a secret. And so I think a lot of people are working out what they're comfortable with, but I'm certainly comfortable with the misdemeanor A, and really trying to advocate for it, but I'm not going to tell you that it's easy right now. It's not.
So, pardon me. Sheriffs are voted countywide, represent all the people in the state of Oregon. District attorneys are countywide, represent all the people inside and outside the cities. County commissioners are voted in countywide, inside and outside the cities. And we've had these discussions, LOC and AOC, Sheriff's Association, District Attorneys Association. So there's a lot of alignment in asking for this. It seems like such a high bar with the current mix of the majority, but people that are representing all the people statewide, remember, inside and outside the cities, countywide positions, are all aligned with what you just said. So I just wanted to empower you with that also.
Thank you. I mean, I think we can get there. It's hard right now. But I think we're close. Do you think that's an accurate statement, that you see movement there?
And we want to provide people help when they need help, right? But there's also maybe the tool that says stop, because you're very self-destructive to yourself and others, and let's get you help. So that would be my only statement also is, do we have a way to say stop, let's get you to help? And because not everybody's asking for help.
No, absolutely. There has to be a moment to stop the behavior and then get someone on a different path. And we need to empower our local law enforcement to have a tool. And I think that tool will ultimately make someone better. Representative Hartman shares about how they finally got her brother got clean in jail, but she's like, where the system failed her is that there was a dealer waiting right outside of jail for her brother, right? So I think this has impacted a lot of legislators' lives, and they're being really vulnerable and sharing their stories and saying it's, there's the stories we tell ourselves of what the criminal justice system is, but if we can build something that actually gets people help and helps them on the backside too, that's the goal. There is a lot of movement, but I guess it's slow movement. But I think we're close to A is what I'm saying. It's just, it's tough.
The good news is we have ideal options. We are one of the 2 counties, Marion County, Deschutes County, that has ideal options in our jail. So we are trying to help. And I think that's important, because people that are overdosed, maybe they're not in jail now, but a lot of them are in the cemeteries. So that's the sad thing, I think, that's happened. Janice, would you like to add to the conversation?
No, yes, not no. I just appreciate the discussion, and I appreciate the no nonsense, common sense approach. And we have a professional organization that is supporting House Bill 4002, but what I do want to say is that as a clinician, a behavioral health clinician that worked with people who were court mandated for many years, I know that penalties and diversion programs can be very effective at helping people make changes. And I would hate to think that the one thing that stops us from investing in additional resources is sort of stalemate on the Class A or Class C misdemeanor. So I would support what Commissioner DeBone has said about let's get to consensus and let's give law enforcement tools, because they're responding to overdose every day in the field as well as my staff. So yeah, I think on the ground, we're less worried about some of the debate about what level of misdemeanor and more worried about making sure that the investments follow recriminalizing, which is critical.
Absolutely, Janice, that's what I've been saying the whole time too. I was like, just get it done and then let's get it to work, and it won't work without money.
Yeah, thank you.
Is the bottom line for me.
Thanks for your work.
Yeah,
And Heather, I see your, Commissioner DeBone, do you mind if Heather says a comment first? I know she's dealing with the plague, so we need to hear from Heather.
Thank you, Commissioner Dare. Yeah, looks like we have an NBC interview. So I do have a question just around primary prevention. I'm in public health.
Mhm.
And, you know, when we think about primary prevention, we think really upstream around adolescent prevention, you know, work within the schools, work with parents to prevent ever, you know, using. And I'm just curious if that's being discussed at all, any funding, because prevention in public health is just sorely underfunded. So I'm just curious if that's any part of the discussions.
It is part of the discussions, and I have a handout on it, and I will get it to you. But also, I absolutely agree with you, Heather, and I talk about this all the time. That, you know, 45% of, I say this all the time, 45% of people who are on fentanyl started with an opioid prescription in the United States. And now we've made it really hard to get opioids, which is probably good, but didn't address the underlying crisis. And now we have fentanyl. So I have like 3 bills I want to bring in the long session. One that's like for opioids on your advanced healthcare directive saying no opioids, things like that to stop at the very front end from the introduction of an opioid if it's not needed. Certainly there are times when it is needed, but if a patient can be off it within 5 days, we don't see those same levels of addiction. And so I love that. I really want to work upstream. Right now, I would say we're kind of more in the acute phase, but that is part of the package, and it is definitely part of bigger discussions in the long session.
Thank
And like
you.
where my heart is also.
Thank you.
I see, Doug, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I profess a bias in this area since I represent school-based health centers and a lot of child welfare programs. This has been a priority of those entities, plus the counties. We've had lots of discussions here in Deschutes County and at AOC on these youth issues. And I was encouraged to see an emphasis on youth behavioral health in the discussion of the bill. I'd also mention that there's a bipartisan bill, House Bill 4070, which will pass out of the House Committee on Behavioral Health and Healthcare on Monday or Wednesday. That bill will go to Ways and Means. It would expand mental and behavioral health services in all schools, including those that have SBHCs, and also open up the opportunity for 10 more districts to plan for SBHCs, which draws down a 4-to-1 match. So for 25 cents, you get $1 to $1.25 worth of services through an SBHC. So critical issue. We have ignored youth substance abuse for far too long in Oregon, and I'm happy to see that at least there's discussion of those issues. Just really quickly, there also, I was very pleased on Wednesday sitting through that very long hearing that lasted almost until 9 o'clock to hear quite a bit of mention of programs that are important to the county. DV has her hand up, but community corrections, aid and assist, those are the types of programs that really make a difference for counties like ours. And I'll turn it over to the other folks who had their hands up.
Commissioner DeBone, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so this is about 2 steps ago in our conversation, but just that there's discretion at the district attorney's office. The people in the DA's office are community members looking out for other community members with the authority to apply state law with discretion. judges are the same, right? Judges are community members that have families, and so let's not disregard these whole systems for whatever purposes, just because we don't think it used to work. So as I say, I'm just supporting the fact that there can be discretion there, because if there's resources, let's get them to that resource. Let's not, throw the book at them. This is the first time. There's a lot of discretion in the middle there. And then the high flyers that are coming back, we might need to, wrap around a little bit more. So once again, I'm trying to empower you with some information.
DV, I'm sorry, you had your hand up.
I actually lowered it, but I'll take this opportunity. Thank you. I'm with Community Justice, and I just want to echo what Doug said. I've appreciated the conversations on 402 that I've heard in the Addictions and Health Safety Committee about the importance of funding community corrections to provide services as needed to those who are coming in with the A or the B or the C misdemeanor, in accordance with what we know works and can help supplement what behavioral health is doing. So thanks a lot for attention to that, and I appreciate it greatly.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really, my goal is just to get the money and let the experts do their thing. That's really my goal, and what the legislature really should do.
Okay, get the money. Okay, I like
get the dollars.
Yes. Okay, that's what I wrote down. Dollars. Do we have? I just looked. Do we have any other legislators that have joined us this morning?
I'm sure I don't see any at this time.
Okay.
I don't see any. I know some were in a committee meeting this morning, but I'll double check. Keep
All
an eye
right.
on that.
So what about the schools then? Emerson, what about getting out to our kids in the schools? Is there anything you're seeing in legislation that we're going to have more help with that?
With addiction or?
Right. Well, with, yes, with like substance use disorder, making them aware of what's happening out there. The fact that we were told on Wednesday when we declared an emergency here in Deschutes County, we were told that they actually can now order the pills online. And now I know how my boys used to order or do things, and I am sure they would have been ordering things. And, just for parents to be aware that if your kids start getting packages in the mail, you better open them first.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also that's a conversation to be having with our superintendents as well. Make sure that that's their jurisdiction. I certainly don't want to step on top of it, but I believe that there are funds for youth. I will get that information of what we have for our youth, but there's definite investments for our youth.
Okay, great. Sounds like Janice.
Yeah, just flagging that our prevention program here locally is doing a lot of work in the schools right now around getting awareness elevated around fentanyl, in particular, and the risk of fentanyl and other substances that kids may come into contact with. I think we're about to release a couple of public service announcements that Heather can talk about. I think our schools are working to get Narcan on site. We are working at a speed of 100 miles an hour every day to try to tell the community that while we're in the midst of this crisis, getting Narcan into everybody's purse, jail facility, bathroom facility, just to preserve life while we work through ways to address the longer term crisis is also really critical. So I don't know if Heather had anything to add around local efforts, but any dollars that help support those local efforts. We're using opioid dollars and cobbled together funding right now to do that work. And it's always sort of scraping year by year.
Yeah, I would add, thank you, Janice. I would add youth substance abuse prevention, definitely more dollars are needed at the state level. I think we do a great job in Deschutes County, and our BOCC has been really supportive. We have Healthy Schools, which we've been able to really work with health teachers and get some evidence-based curriculum in there around substance use prevention. So I think we're ahead than most counties on that, but definitely need more. So thank you.
No, thank you. That's such important work. I know. I mean, I have a 9-year-old, but we've already talked to her about what fentanyl is and what it looks like and all those things. And I hear that from other parents as well. So I definitely agree, and I'll see what funding there is, but I do know there's something. I just don't know the details on it.
Okay, because I think that is important. Doug, did you want to add a comment?
Oh, no comment. I want to be respectful of Representative Levy-Simon, make sure we get her out by 8:30.
Yes.
No, if there are any other questions, I'm running my two bills. One, which is about copay accumulators, is kind of a niche pharmacy bill. And then the e-bike bill as well. So, and they're both moving right now. Yeah, so if there's any questions, if there anything comes up, please feel free to reach out. I think most of you probably have my cell phone number. If you don't, I'm happy to share it. And just please, just texting me is the easiest way to get a hold of me if you have any questions.
Okay, texting.
Patty has my number. She can give it to anybody who needs it.
Thank you so much. We
That's
so
what it is.
appreciate you this morning.
Thanks.
Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for all that you do.
Alrighty. So, no legislators have joined us. Okay, let's go to any other messages you want to give us, Doug?
Well, let me check with Jan. I think we wanted to kind of quickly walk through the bills on our tracking list. I thank you to the department heads for reviewing the bills. It was a bit daunting to look at the first bill list, and I think we had 93 bills that we sent you to take a look at. So almost a third of the bills in the entire legislature we thought you might be interested in. I think, Jen, we've narrowed that down to 21 or 22. Is that right?
Somewhere around there at this count. And just in the interest of time this morning, we only have 30 minutes, and because it's our first bill review, there's a lot on there. So Doug and I and Nick talked earlier in this week and prioritized some of the bills to review today. And then we're hoping to get to the remainder next week when we have a full hour to discuss them. So it's a little bit of jumping around, and I'm happy to prompt on the pages there, Commissioner, or if you would like to take the lead, let me know.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so we're going to start with the Board of Commissioners bills, which is starting on page 3. The first bill on there, and if Doug wants to talk a little bit more to it, it's Bill HB 4042. This is a bill that Commissioner Chang flagged, and the brief synopsis is to reestablish a regionally significant industrial sites program to capitalize the industrial site loan fund. And I have a one-pager, so I can expand a little bit on that, but it's not my level of expertise. So Doug, if there's anything that you want to add to that particular bill.
Yeah, this bill and two related bills have already had hearings this week. There's a broad coalition of interests that have lined up behind it, including cities, counties, some special districts, pretty much the entire business community, the semiconductor community as well. This is a proposal that builds on smaller investments that we've made, over the years that have been very valuable. And of course, the industrial land issue continues to be critical and key to attracting jobs and economic development. So there was a hearing on, I think Wednesday.
No, it was Thursday.
Turn on.
Today at 1.
Yeah, Tuesday. And I fully expect this bill to pass. It's in a committee that's very friendly towards it. It will go to Ways and Means, and then it'll depend on Ways and Means deciding whether or not to invest in the program. But I do think it's very important that we have this on our list and that we share this with our legislators so they know how important it is for us.
Thanks, Doug. Do the commissioners want to take a position on this particular bill at this time?
I'm supportive. I don't know that we need to put a lot of resources to it. Sounds like Doug will be able to speak on the topic, knowing that Deschutes County would be supportive, or we could testify if it comes around for that. I do think, the big picture is this is a big time of transition for industry, thinking about reshoring from overseas, world dynamics. I mean, it's going to be important to have productive businesses in the United States of America, and why not do it in Oregon? So just a few words on that subject.
So I'd leave it at a 2. That sounds fine, Jen.
I agree.
Okay, 2 support. Great.
Thank you.
The next 2 bills were bills that were brought forth by Commissioner DeBonne. It's HB 4140, and then we're going to skip one page and go to SB 1587. It's a packet of bills, I believe, that are associated with children's advocacy centers. So Commissioner DeBonne, do you want to talk any further on that?
As I say, and I mentioned this during our board meeting, it's the mission of our existing Kids Center. So this would be more foundational funding for Kids Center efforts. I would show support for it. And if the legislature is so inclined, it'd be nice And Kids Center's got a great history of fundraising and community support, and it's foundational to our community. So I would propose to support also.
And that's Senate Bill 1587.
And House Bill 4140.
So yeah, I guess I didn't study. Are those companion bills or?
Yeah, Commissioner, one is a committee bill and the other is Senator Knope's bill. I was at the hearing and attended the hearing the other day. If you look online, there's quite a bit of testimony. I'll declare a bias because I used to be the lobbyist for the Children's Advocacy Centers in Oregon for about 10 years. So we helped build the foundation that has really helped establish the centers, and they are amazingly effective, and they're cost savers. Intervening early in this way saves millions and millions of dollars down the road. So good bills, lots of support. Last session, I will say, I think it's important if the county wants to take a position on this, it's important because last session, at the end of the session, the Ways and Means Committee left out funding for child advocacy centers. And there was quite a big fight on the Ways and Means Committee just in the last 3 or 4 days to get the $6 million just to keep stable funding going. I'm not sure why there's a disconnect between the couple dozen sponsors of this bill and the Ways and Means leadership. So I think any and all advocacy in support of these bills is important.
What if we did a 1? Would that help, Doug? I mean, if we put more energy into it, I mean, if there is going to be a funding issue, because isn't it funding where it's all at?
Typically, we reserve 1s for just bills that the county itself sponsors. 2 is the highest priority for a bill that the county is not sponsored, but you could do a 2+ or a 2 AA.
I support it too, knowing that this is a thumbs up, yes, but it's a fiscal ask too. So, somebody else got to pull the checkbook out. So I don't know that it's a 1 in the sense that a policy choice that affects us is directly as opposed to financial.
How much money are we talking? You said 6 million?
The 6 million was last session. They have not put numbers in the bill. Let me just double check. Yeah, there's still just blank lines. So I think they're leaving it blank and sending it to Ways and Means with the hope that Ways and Means funds it at as high a level as possible.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So Jen, what's the next one?
Okay, great. Just confirming, I'm marking HB 4140 and SB 1582 as to support. The next one is Senate Bill 1511. Commissioner Chang talked about this at the end of the Board of Commissioner meetings a little bit on Wednesday, and Kevin Moriarty is here online as well to talk a little bit further if you need more information on this particular bill. Turn it over to Kevin.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, this Senate Bill 1511 is establishing a neighborhood protection grant program through the Office of State Fire Marshal. It'd be a periodic grant program that would be available, at least initially, for local governments, fire districts, and NGOs. It would include doing a risk assessment, and then the grant would be based on wildfire risk, social vulnerability, and capacity. And then it sounds like there would be plans in the future to be available for individual landowners to apply for the grant. The second piece to it is it would create a fund for the grant. And then it would also create a certification program that would be informed by insurance companies to basically certify that risk has been reduced through that grant program, and then by identifying actions. And so that's essentially a summary of the bill.
Great, thanks, Kevin. And just for confirmation, are you looking for a support position on this particular bill?
Yeah, I personally would support the bill. It does seem like it is alluding to the wildfire hazard map as potentially how they're going to identify areas of priority. I'm not quite sure on that, but the way it's written, yes, I would support it.
Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I just note that the request is $5 million, and also AOC wrote a letter and testified in support of it during the hearing.
Yeah,
okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, if it's alluding to that hazard map, I'm sure that will hold up that funding. But we can be an optimist, right? Okay, so anything else?
So do we have a two support from the commissioners on SB 1511?
Sure.
Okay, great. Next, we'll go to page 1. It's House Bill 4107. This is a bill pertaining to the Wolf Depredation and Financial Assistance Committee. AOC is in support of their Natural Resources Committee in support of this, as well as ODFW. This bill will streamline the process for ranchers and owners who've had depredation or missing livestock from wolves. Currently, the system is if there's a depredation, there's one pool of funding for that. And then if there's missing livestock, it's a pretty arduous process for the ranchers or owners to claim compensation for that. They have to prove a lot of paperwork. This bill will be in line with other Western states like Wyoming, which just does an automatic multiplier. In Wyoming, for example, if there's a depredation, they assume that the more than one of the livestock was impacted. So they just automatically multiply that depredation by 7. And just have that one pot of compensation for the ranchers or owners instead of making them prove that they have other missing livestock from having known wolves in the area. So currently this is recommended at 2 support in conversations with ODFW and with AOC.
Definitely I support. I know when some people think times 7, it's not compensating for ranchers whose cows no longer get pregnant. So there's all kinds of costs out there that hopefully this will help cover.
Looks like we're on the 2 train today.
Great.
Okay.
I support also.
Perfect. Okay, moving
Yeah.
along to health service. Oh,
Jen.
sorry. Go ahead, Doug.
Then really quickly, I think there is a companion bill to this bill that we need to look into. So after the meeting, I'll try to look that up. The reason I
Okay.
say that is because I was in a hearing on a bill that does this, and yet when I look this number up, it doesn't list it as having a hearing. So I think there must be a second bill. So let me take a look at that. So
Sounds great.
but it would be the same
Make a note
concept.
of that. Okay, great. Next, we're moving to page 15 for health services. I'll turn it over to Janice and team. The first one up there is HB 4002.
So I think I've alluded to this before. I'm in a little bit of a dilemma, and I think we'll really just want to have a conversation with our commissioners about which particular bills the commissioners want to support, and they may not all want to support the same bills. So I'm really just wanting to try to be helpful with the discussion. 4002 appears to be a bipartisan bill. It is one of many bills that's goal is to reform Measure 110. I don't think anyone on this Zoom would disagree that Measure 110 reform is in order and desperately needed. I really don't have a strong opinion or a recommendation around the level of misdemeanor, other than to say that meaningful incentives are sometimes the only way to help people get into treatment and to save lives. So you can read between the lines there. And then the only other thing I would say, and I'm just expressing an angst, and I really would like to hear others' thoughts about where we're headed, is that we have one of the best funded criminal justice systems in the world. We spend more money incarcerating people than almost any other Western country, and we spend significantly less on treatment. And my fear about Measure 110 is that the intentions were good, the execution was pretty abysmal, and that the reaction of the community to the poor execution will be to go back to investing in punitive measures without adequately investing in treatment. And so that affects sort of where I land on some of these bills. And I realize that may not be the shared opinion of the group. Anything we do right now, as long as we're investing in treatment, will be better than the current situation. So those are my thoughts. I know that's not very clear, but I'm wrestling in my own mind about what's the right thing to do.
Well, so being involved with AOC, saying the words I've been saying already, I don't know that we need to send Doug in there as a #1 priority, because it's got its own momentum. It's all going. And as I say, this is that same situation. You know, we can't have both things being a priority. Some people are saying, well, the government needs to provide treatment to everybody who's struggling. I don't know that there's enough money in the world to fix everybody's problem, but we want to invest with what we can. Public safety. Okay, well, let's stop some bad things from happening and then go from there. So I think we've set our piece and the legislature should just, run with it. So I don't know if there's any specific points we should make from Deschutes County or advocacy at this point, because we already have been very involved.
Doug, I just wanted to say one thing. The really sad number is that Best Care lost 26 clients from overdose last year. And historically, I believe they've lost one. So if that doesn't tell you how bad it is. Doug?
Yeah, very good discussion. I really appreciate the direction. And one of the things that I picked up and discussed with a number of the AOC folks in the last couple of weeks is kind of a general theme that whichever package passes at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the funding for the treatment, the support, the aid and assist, the community corrections, et cetera, gets through. So I think we are. I think the decision about A versus C misdemeanor will probably be at a pay grade well above ours. It'll be a political calculation, I think, of the majority of whether or not they politically can support anything other than a C misdemeanor. That really is the calculation. If you guys really want an interesting, close to 4 hours of entertainment, go back and listen to the hearing. The other night, Commissioner Dara testified and fortunately got onto the docket early, fairly early, but I think it was mind-numbing by the end.
6:40, Doug. It was 6:40.
6:40. Okay, well, it seemed early by 8:47, but it was pretty interesting, and I think everyone on the committee is saying the same thing, which is the kinds of programs that Janice mentioned and that Devi and Holly talked about in the past are super important. And are going to be funded at a higher level than they currently are funded. So I think that really is a key. I don't know if we'll know until the last 2 weeks of the session. So we may be another week out before we find out all the details of exactly where they'll end up.
Okay, Janice?
Yeah, I think the other thing I just want to add, and this is really more for taking the long view and thinking about our community's health. We still have many hundreds more people dying as a result of alcohol addiction in our community than opioid addiction, and also, causing harms in the community as well. And I just don't want to forget about the fact that the treatment system for addiction has been neglected in Oregon for some time and is really getting focused right now because of the dismay and the furor about Measure 110, and also about houselessness, which is not only related to substance use, but also to the low availability of housing that's affordable. So all these crises have kind of combined. The work we can do as a community is to continue to work to destigmatize, to know that many people are dying in their homes of addiction right now, housed people with jobs, not just the folks that grab our attention on the street, and not to forget about that and not to step away from this effort to fund resources for people in need of treatment when we put Measure 110 sort of into the rearview mirror. We're going to keep seeing those folks and trying to serve them after all of the media attention dies down. And I just hope we don't forget about that population.
Well, don't forget that the life expectancy in the United States of America has dropped, and that we have, 39 point whatever obese in our country. So, yes, we've got alcoholism that definitely shouldn't be ignored, but we actually have a bigger and broader issue that I know public health has their hands full, and I thank you for all the work that you all do. Doug, or Jen, do we have any other bills?
Yeah, so we had two more under health services, which is HB 4092 and HB 4081. And then we have District Attorney Gunnels on our call today. There was several district attorney bills that were flagged from him and his team that I'd like to give him the opportunity to discuss. So Janice and or Heather, do you want to continue the health services
The other,
conversation going, or did we cover the topics that were listed under there?
we have talked about 4092 before. That's the admin burden bill and the funding the system bill. I hope it gets traction. If we're not going to have 4002 be a 1, I would make this one a 1. So just wondering if there's any support for that. And then I haven't looked closely at 4081. Sorry.
That's EMS modernization.
Oh, that's right. It's public
I
health.
gained
Sorry, Tom.
support for last week, so I think we're good with that one.
Yep.
Tom, that
And
one
I
looks
noticed that, yeah, I think support 2 on both of those, right?
yes.
Yeah, and I do note that the person who probably knows the most about all these topics has just joined us. The person who's in the know, Representative Krupp. So, Commissioner, maybe we can turn it over and get a quick update. Representative, we had Representative Levy in the first part of the meeting, and then we've been going through bills. Among the bills on our bill tracker list are all the Measure 110 bills that your committee has been hearing, and we talked a little bit about that very long hearing that you had the other night, but got a lot of public input. So, Commissioner, do you want to turn it over to Representative Krupp for a few minutes?
That would be excellent. Thank you so much, Representative Crop, for joining us. If you want to get us up to date.
Sure. Yeah, and I do school drop off in the morning, so this is about as early as I can make the meeting. So nice to see everybody, and Commissioner, thanks for coming and testifying on Wednesday. It was nice to see you. We just finished the sort of first week. Short sessions significantly different than long session. The first week or two of long session is like, sort of a slower ease into it. And this just, we just don't have time to do that. So, probably a lot of my work is in the House Judiciary Committee and then the Joint Committee on Addiction. We're in the process of vetting the different proposals when it comes to addiction services and public safety part. I mean, that public hearing was, I would say, was 95% focused on whether possession of a small amount of drugs should be a crime or not. The package that we're putting forward is much bigger and broader than that. Everything from funding for counties to have medication for opioid addiction in our jails, right? You have to cover all the health. I mean, you're all acutely aware that you have to cover all the health care costs for folks who are serving jail sentences, and we're trying to alleviate some of that burden for you, breaking on other barriers for that. We have a list of shovel-ready projects. There's, the projects on that list from Deschutes County, including funding for the stabilization center that I've been advocating before. That stabilization center is a place that is known throughout the state, and I will say every legislator that has been over here to see it from other places has been incredibly impressed by the work that Janice and Holly and the rest of the team have done in that space. And it is a number of legislators have asked me, like, how do we get something like that in my town? So to always continue to advocate for that. And then money for youth prevention, which I think is critical in strategic planning for what our youth system should look like as well. And then there's public safety components. So we are still in the process of vetting those different proposals. We're waiting to figure out what the final budget number is going to be for the investments that we want to make. And in the process, we have a number of different ideas on how we prioritize those with the sort of shovel-ready projects. We're trying to look at what each community needs. We have gap analysis information out there, like, all right, what is Deschutes County missing? What is Marion County missing? And seeing how those projects fit into that piece. So I'm happy to answer any questions folks might have. I know that the district attorney and I have a meeting later this morning. So we can publicly debate it out in front of you, or we can do that later.
Commissioner, you're on mute.
Yes, does the DA want to say something now?
Have that meeting later today. We were going to discuss from the District Attorneys Association perspective some of the current proposals in the legislature, particularly 4002, I believe, is the bill that's kind of at the head of the pack for the legislature, and we have some thoughts on that proposal, and I think we're going to try to hash those ideas out today.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm glad you're getting together
I
then.
would, and I think the district attorney and I would agree on this. There's been a significant change in the way the state's ability to prosecute drug delivery charges in the last couple of years from the Court of Appeals and Supreme Court decisions. And that is something that we are changing and providing clarity on. So we are making sure that Steve's office, the DA's office and law enforcement have the tools that they need to interject when folks are selling drugs in our community. We're going to make sure that happens.
I know it seemed like every day this week we've seen another arrest in Deschutes County with drugs somewhere. To what was it, $100,000?
Commissioner Dare, I've seen the crime stats for the city of Bend. I haven't seen the crime stats, so it is the crime in this. I mean, I'm not saying our crime rate has been relatively steady since 2019 in the city of Bend. So in my House Judiciary Committee, I have the CJC come in with the FBI stats and show us, so we really know what the data is. And I'm not saying that crime is not an issue in Bend. It certainly is, but we have not seen the increase that they saw in other communities. And then honestly, the other communities are starting to see a leveling or a decrease in some of that crime rate in the last couple of quarters. I think Commissioner Bone, I thought I saw your hand up maybe.
Yeah, I was just going to step in. So thanks for what you're doing. It's going to be a resource and some policy choices in there. I mentioned Representative Levy. Sheriffs are elected countywide, district attorneys, county commissioners. So there's a lot of the common ground for all this. But as I say, at this point, after the first week of the legislature, you've got the information. Go forth and do the best you can.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Commissioner.
Okay. Doug.
Yeah, Representative, I would just thank you and the committee for mentioning some of the key programs for the county's perspective, community corrections, aid and assist, those kind of treatment programs, regardless of which approach the committee takes as far as the criminal penalty approach. All those same requirements will be on the counties, and so we're very happy to see continued attention and mention of those important prevention programs. We're already facing a shortage and want to be able to respond in an appropriate and effective way to the large number of individuals who need support as they go through this process. So thank you very much for continuing to.
Yeah, Doug, thanks for bringing that up. There's requests that I believe are, well, to me, are priorities, which is that aid and assist funding for the counties, increase in funding for community corrections departments, within the making possession of a small amount of drugs. There's increased funding for the CMHPs in that piece, and increased funding for our treatment providers who help out with folks who are struggling with addiction. So there's investments to allow for local responses and local innovation. So I had a really nice chat with Holly earlier this week, just sort of very, very broad strokes, what's your capacity and how can we as a state sort of help with some of the work that she is doing and your department is doing. So we are trying to knock down the barriers on the state side about how do we get you funding, how do you get you support. But I do think this is a shared responsibility. It's going to take, when I think we're a good example, right? We're a pretty progressive, innovative county when it comes to tackling some of these issues, and we're trying to help support and spur that on even more. So I hope you sort of continue to join in with us on this.
One thing that hasn't been mentioned, Jason, is I know that our new treasurer is going to be on KBND talking about the fact that the apartment rental in Bend is now up to 9.4%. And we actually need affordable housing in Bend for people that work here to be able to afford to live here. So I don't know if you were aware of that, but Bill has been providing us with those numbers on a monthly basis. And it definitely, the apartments are more expensive than what our community can afford at this time.
Yep. I'm mindful of that. Thanks for that, Commissioner. I'm mindful of the high cost of housing in Bend. We've underinvested in housing production for a long time, a lot of levels. We make significant, $1 billion+ investments each legislative session. The money that you see the state have that's going to go out the door this session is going to be for two basic things. One is housing and homelessness and addiction and public safety. And those are going to be the primary buckets. You're going to see funding, hopefully for infrastructure dollars to help local communities build the infrastructure they need so they can build housing, operational costs, operational money to help with the shelters and increased capacity. I know the county's been a part of that, so thank you for that. So we are laser focused on those two issues, housing and addiction right now.
Yes, we would appreciate funding for the continuation. I think that's so those service providers know that their dollars coming in.
Yep.
And the good that they're doing can be continued.
Yep, we're trying to. Everybody, there's a cap on all of our public dollars, and we're trying to prioritize those dollars.
Great, thank you so much.
Welcome.
8:58. Janice.
I just wanted to thank Rep. Kropf because he actually talks with us regularly, gets lots of information, digs really deep into the issues and listens really well. And I don't know what's going to transpire or which version of the bill around Measure 110 will pass, but it's really clear that you're hearing what the community needs in terms of housing, in terms of substance use treatment, and I'm just appreciative. So thanks for the hard work.
Yeah, thanks. Janice, thank you. I've always been incredibly impressed when I worked as a county employee and as a legislator, how much talent there exists.
We got a good group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's a great team, and Heather came back. So we are.
And Heather came back. Woo!
We are so lucky. But to point out, we did have 4 overdoses. I believe it was on Tuesday. Totally over almost at the same time for Bend PD. So 4 overdoses that day. Jason, I don't know if you caught that story, but it's like, okay, maybe we need more law enforcement dollars too at this time. Anyhow, Doug, we need to be on time. It's 8:59. Is there anyone else with a raised hand?
Yeah, Commissioner, we have one request where we may have Katie Brooks joining us, but we have a time-sensitive letter of support request. It's for the Central Oregon Innovation Hub efforts, and they're looking for a letter of support on behalf of the commissioners for that. I'll turn it over to Whitney real quick. Is Katie able to join us or?
thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Representative Kropf.
Whitney, we can't hear you.
And Jen, were we going to talk about right of way really quick?
Yeah, I sent the Chris. I think Chris is still on the line, or maybe he dropped. I sent the. Oh, there you are. Yeah, I sent the test, so we can switch real quick. I sent the testimony over to the commissioners yesterday afternoon that Chris wrote up as a last minute request, and gave it out to the commissioners if they wanted to further engage or have any questions on that. So I'll turn that over to Chris and/or the commissioners.
Yeah, just that bill again allows counties the ability to charge fees and issue permits for utility work that occurs in the right of way, such that we can be reimbursed for our time to kind of monitor that. Historically, that's been not allowed within state law, and that has us subsidizing utilities with transportation dollars basically, and we'll be able to establish fees to recover permit costs. The letter sent last night kind of clarified some testimony that was coming in from special districts and AOC regarding wanting to include wastewater fee recovery as a part of that bill. Wastewater, we actually already have the ability to establish fees. Wastewater facilities aren't allowed within right of way for free. They have to be permitted by counties. And so letter just kind of clarifies the reasons why, and hopefully assisted in the hearing that was held last night, which I understand went pretty well, all things considered.
How many years have we been trying to accomplish this?
Probably 3 or 4, but this is the most momentum, I think we've had in a while. It's been fits and starts, but I think the group feels pretty good about where this is headed.
Well, in the short session, it's good to have this come up because it is a mature topic, and a decision would be appreciated. So I'm supportive of proceeding with all that.
Yeah, Chris, I sat through the hearing last night. I also talked directly with the special district's lobbyist, Mark Landauer, at length. They are, stuck with wanting. They refuse to budge on their position that wastewater should be included in the longer list from the separate ORS category. So that's something. Why don't you and I have a conversation with offline? Yeah. I'm thinking the letter kind of spelled out the issue. And they're not. I don't think they understand what the statute restricts to begin with. I think they have a misunderstanding of what state law allows. So we need to educate them on that to then explain why we're asking for what we're asking for. Yeah, they dug their heels in and mentioned wastewater about 27 times. That's a bit of hyperbole, but they mentioned it over and over and over, in line with water, gas, electric, communications, wastewater. They kept bringing wastewater in that list as if it were one and the same. Yeah, no, I'd be happy to talk to you offline here, Doug, and then or talk to Mark.
Great. Thank you so much. Did Katie join us then?
I think she's actually trying to join right now. But Whitney, if you want to step in and give any background information.
Yep. How's my mic? Good?
That's great.
Okay, perfect. Katie Brooks reached out. She has kind of stepped into a little bit of a void that was created when Adam Kernicki left OSU Cascades, and she's spearheading a regional effort to apply for Business Oregon funds for the Central Oregon Innovation Hub. And there she is. So with that, I'll turn it over to Katie to talk to you more about this request for a letter of commitment from the county. It sounds like this will be due February 12th. Katie, I just teed this up. I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit more about this request.
Great. Thanks so much, Whitney.
I should mention that Commissioner Chang is flying this morning, so he's not part of the meeting, Katie. It's Commissioner DeBonne and I.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Adair. Really, really glad to be here this morning just to provide a little bit of background. So for the last year and a half, I would say, the region has been undergoing a effort to provide input and form kind of a plan moving forward in response to some federal funding from the EDA, the Economic Development Administration, in federal level. It's pass-through money that's going through the state of Oregon, through Business Oregon. The purpose of this money is to promote and support entrepreneurship, specifically startups and entrepreneurs in traded sector throughout the county and throughout the Tri-County area as well. And what this is supposed to do is support anybody who wants to do a startup. You think about gross domestic product and bringing new jobs, new energy, new taxes, and innovation into the state. So we have been meeting over the last year and a half, primarily under OSU Cascades, to gather folks from far and wide. This includes rural areas, it includes the tribes, and it includes the Ben Redmond MSA area. So in a nutshell, we put together a plan that outline what it is we want to accomplish. And it's essentially a model of collaboration with OSU being the head of the hub, also COCC providing support in rural areas across the Tri-County area, and EDCO providing specific support to entrepreneurs and access to venture capital and just expertise and information. The whole idea is to make it easy, a one-stop shop for anybody with an idea to access information and support to promote that idea into a business and grow it through the startup stages. So we've all been working on this together. I just took it on because OSU went through a lot of machinations with the leadership turnover and just some folks moving on. And so it ended up actually being a really great opportunity for us to collaborate even more on bringing in partners and getting this queued up and ready to go. So the request to the county is to support this effort. It is a requirement of the grant fund application. We're applying for a little under 530,000, I think, and it will fund a couple of folks to do the outreach. It'll help fund the tribes. We've received some commitment for funding from the Ford Family Foundation for rural areas. We have the first year completely covered financially. So this isn't a money request at this point. It might be in the future, and we would really appreciate everyone who signs on to be open to being approached for funding concepts. But that isn't what we're asking for at this point. What we are asking for is just the support of having someone from the county be in touch with this, perhaps participate on the steering committee so that we all can collaborate and keep this thing moving forward. And also to share any information and data or efforts that are county-led that you think might be supportive of this effort as well. So the bottom line is everybody is collaborating and bringing what they've got to the table, but mostly their energy and support at this stage. So that is what it is, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Sounds like a real exciting project. I'm supportive of an innovation hub, small entrepreneurs getting a hand up real quick to be able to figure out. And we know this from the entrepreneurial world. Work hard early, fail early if it needs to happen, or pivot. Just all the big concepts that happen there. So very exciting to be able to do this in partnership with Oregon State University Cascades campus. One of the things that come to mind is we always have to watch out for, we don't want to buy our own job as a small business owner. I was in that spot with my wife, and somebody pointed out that to us one day. At some point, you got to just stop. If you're not making money, you're going backwards, you're just taking on debt. And this is the business world, obviously. So, so it just kind of makes me think about what the business model is here. But if Business Oregon has dollars for this, I'm supportive of getting this going and figuring out where to go with it. So the words on the letter of support, let's take a look at that. Probably not today. Let's not cookie cutter the ones that are there. Just do our own a little bit.
No, it needs to be done by Monday. The letter's due on the 12th.
So we can do it today, but I'm just saying that let's not cookie cutter the other ones that are out there as much. So yeah, letter of
That'd be
support.
great. Okay, so my question is, this funding, is this coming from the feds?
The money originally was from the feds, from the EDA, but Business Oregon is the pass-through entity. They are who we provided the plan to last year, and now they are disseminating the money. So it's a pass-through from the state, and they are the ones that will review the applications. And our application will be done next week. If you need another extra day or two, let us know, and we'll just put that into our timeline. But our target is to have everything wrapped up by the 12th, 13th at the latest, if we can.
That's Monday. That's Tuesday.
I support a letter to be published today, just with review, for the final version. Commissioner Chang's traveling, so he won't be able to be engaged before next Tuesday anyways. Unless we ask him to check his email on that topic. But let's just get something done today. I'm supportive of that.
We don't have a meeting on Monday. So my question then, Katie, to you is, I had somebody this morning that wants to start a business. Are you telling me there's no place I can refer her to today?
There is. It's just, in fact, this region has a history of working together. This gives it more structure. There are lots of folks. If it's a traded sector idea, I would send him to Brian Vieira at EDCO. especially for someone who's looking at finding a path forward to starting a business. That's what Brian's job is. He's the venture catalyst.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where I should send her then.
Yeah, she's just at the stage of putting together a business plan. COCC is Small Business Development folks. Sue Meyer over there is fabulous at this stuff. And she has a whole team of people who can help as well.
Or
Oh my
go
God.
to your favorite chamber of commerce and they'll guide you those same resources, right?
Bring it
There
on.
you go.
I'm happy to help.
No, it's great because that was why I was like 2 minutes to get to my office this morning because someone needs help with their business. So anyway, this is great. I'm so glad that you're here today and we will get something done for you, pulled together so that you can timely get some of the funding of the 530,000. I guess, well, you don't need it all though, because you're getting Ford family.
Yes, Ford family is contributing. All told, I think it's $840,000. OSU Cascades is contributing money. And many of us are contributing time and in kind at this point, which is pretty much what you folks would be committing to just by saying, hey, we support it and we want to keep in touch and participate.
Great.
So it's pretty well set up for year one.
Okay.
Commissioners, I recommend the minutes motion just to be consistent with what we've done in the past.
Okay, Commissioner DeBonne, do you want to make a motion, please?
So, yeah, I move a letter of support for the Innovation District funding that's available and with a letter to follow by review today.
And I'll second the motion for the discussion. Commissioner DeBonne
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So thank you, Katie.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it.
Perfect timing. Okay, so now we all actually, I noticed not everyone has left. It's now 9:13. Let the minutes reflect that we tried our best to be on time. And Doug, we will be talking to you later then.
Sounds good. 31 days left.
31. Okay. Have a good weekend, everyone. Don't eat too many wings.